Today is such a special day, my friends. Today's the day I start making my very first jumper. So if you're new here, I started teaching myself how to knit in April this year. When I'm filming this introduction, when I'm starting this jumper, it is July. And I cannot quite believe that I've gotten to this point so quickly. Like, I truly thought back when I really started to learn how to knit in April that I kind of had in my head that it would be nice if at the year mark, maybe I was getting ready to knit my first sweater. But I'm just over 3 months in and I'm already kind of feeling like I'm ready. Now, this might just be overconfidence and we're going to find that out together very soon. But I spent all of last month frantically knitting all of those gift knits that I had promised people in my life. And now I have a clear slate. I don't have a list of things that I need to knit for other people. And I'm just ready. I'm just ready to spend not only some time knitting something for myself, but spend like a longer period of time knitting one thing. Because everything else I've knit so far, although I have knit quite a lot, everything has been accessories. The closest I've come to making an article of clothing would be the tiny little dog jumper I made for my tiny little dog. It didn't even have sleeves. It just had holes for her arms though. So it was very, very basic. And so while I'm nervous and excited, I feel like at this point, I just kind of need to give it a go. I might fall flat on my face, but I just want to try. And that mindset of just like giving things a go, whether they turn out or not, and just enjoying the process of being a learner, being a beginner, has served me well so far in my knitting journey. So I'm going to continue embracing that mindset and we're just going to give it a go. Now, I have picked out some yarn. I have a whole bunch of this really lovely lilac yarn. I feel like I've been gravitating towards lilac quite a lot lately. So I bought 6 hanks of this, and according to the pattern that I've selected, that should be enough, but I suppose we'll find out in due course. The thing though that I am currently having to decide is the needles that I'm going to cast on with, because the pattern that I'm using is a very dedicated beginner friendly pattern. I chose it because the jumper itself looks really cute, but also because the designer actually has like a video tutorial to go alongside the written pattern. And I often find those visuals really helpful. So I feel like we're setting ourselves up for success with the choice of this pattern. And I have actually already knit myself a little swatch, or like a pretty sizable swatch if you ask me, because the pattern calls for 5.5mm needles for the body of the sweater. And while I do have 5.5mm needles, I only have them in like the wooden set that I have. And I have found over time that I do much prefer knitting with steel needles, but I only have a small set of steel needles. So I just wanted to try out the 5.5mm in the wooden set just to see how I felt knitting. And I didn't enjoy the knitting as much, at least with this wool and the wood. And then I also, this top part, I knit with my 5mm steel needles just to see the difference. And honestly, I'm really happy with how both look, and I'm really excited to see this yarn knitting up. It looks so pretty. It's 80% wool and 20% silk. Anyway, obviously the next step was to measure my gauge. And at the 5.5mm, I'm just like a little bit over, whereas at the 5mm, I'm just a little bit under. So I think basically my perfect tension for this would be 5.25, but you can't get that. And so I'm thinking I might just try the 5mm. Like, I prefer that knitting experience. I've already got them in steel. If I can use what I've already got, I'd prefer to do that. And so with all that, should we just get started? Should I just go cast on my very first jumper? I think we should. I've cast it on. It's happening. It's actually happening. To be honest with you, I'd done more than I thought I would. I kind of thought that starting this, I would just mess up and have to frog it. So I thought I was just kind of like playing around at first, but I think this is going to be the beginning of my jumper. And from what I understand, this is basically like the top of the back of the jumper. And I have been doing short rows for the very first time in my life. So we're starting, I guess. But anyway, if you can hear that, that's my kettle. So I need to go make myself a cup of tea. And then we're just going to be knitting all afternoon. It's the next day, but before we get into talking about knitting, I need to know which of you has been here long enough to remember this chair. Let me know in the comments below. We still have it. It's literally falling apart at this point. It was secondhand when we got it like 10, 12 years ago, but it's still here for now. Anyway, the knitting. I did so much knitting yesterday. I can't quite believe it. This is probably like 6 hours worth of knitting yesterday, which is too much, I've discovered, but we'll talk about that in just a second. The first thing I'll say is that I love this pattern. I love how it's organized and what's included because it's very clearly meant for someone who's never made a jumper before, and I could not appreciate that more. So essentially what I have done is I finished the first part yesterday, which was this top part. Basically, it's the top part of the back. And for that, I had to learn how to do German short rows. We were diving right in. It was probably the thing I was most nervous about with this whole experience, but I don't know why everyone complains about them. They're not that hard. I don't know, maybe they get more complex with other patterns, but this at least was very well explained and I managed them fine, I think. Then I started working on part 2, which is kind of like the top midsection of the back, I guess, which is basically just stockinette stitch. Nothing fancy about that, and I'm halfway through that point. So over 70 rows of knitting yesterday, and I mean obviously at the bottom here we're over 100 stitches across, and that brings us to today. And I don't think I can knit today. I want to. It's all I want to do, clearly, but I'm in a lot of pain. And this is me being silly. Yesterday, I kind of knew that my hand was getting tired or whatever, but I didn't realize I was in pain. I know for some of you that will sound really silly, but that's something that happens to me a lot. All I knew is that I wanted to knit. I was very fixated on the knitting and I was happy just to keep knitting. It was after I stopped that I was like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain actually. Both of my hands are sore today. My hand is like really sore. My wrist is sore. And then just like my arm and shoulder is sore. What? Is knitting a high impact sport or what? Like, I know if I knit today, I'm just going to make this pain worse. And that's not what we want to be doing. So I think I need to take a break. Hello, Ollie. Hello, love. All Ollie wants to do is hop up on a lap, huh? So anyway, that's kind of the situation. I made a huge amount of progress yesterday, arguably too much. And now I need to take a break from knitting. And it's funny, it's one of those things where I'm starting to question, reality versus Instagram or online. Because just last night while I was working on this, I watched a really great video by a really great creator of knitting a sweater in 1 week. And I've seen plenty of those kinds of videos. I've even seen someone try to do one in a day. I think it was very chunky yarn. But my point is that there's a lot of this kind of content about pumping out projects, big projects very quickly. And I feel like there's similar conversations in the reading world about how many books people read. And I'm not arguing that these people are not capable of it. I'm not even arguing that these people shouldn't be doing that. I'm just like, how are you not sore? Tell me your secrets. But alas, I'm a mere human and it turns out knitting hurts when you do it too much sometimes. So I'm going to take a break and I'll see you when my body stops hurting, hopefully in a couple of days. Hello, Annie. How you doing? So, it has been a few days. Did I stop knitting entirely? No. I couldn't help it. I literally couldn't help it. I feel like it's a compulsion at this point to knit. Having said that, I definitely did take a decent break, or like I eased off quite a lot, okay? Anyway, should I show you what we've done so far? It might not look that different from last time. This is the back, not the front, but I feel like it's the easiest way for me to show you is by holding it up. This is how much I've done. That's quite a lot, right? Obviously, the vast majority of this was done on the first day when I decided to knit for 6 hours for some reason. The rest of that has been done over the last couple of days. Definitely much slower pace. Basically, what I've been doing is I've still been knitting, but like as soon as my arm or hand or fingers start to like hurt, I will finish that row and then stop. I think I've learnt my lesson though. As much as I would love to spend the entire day of everyday knitting at the moment, I just can't. Physically, I cannot do that. But anyway, we have done a reasonable amount of progress. And so essentially I have finished like part 2 of the instructions. And so that is why this part is now off the needles and on waste yarn, because now I think I need to pick up stitches like along here, along like the back of the shoulder and start knitting forward. So picking up stitches is something I've done before because I've knit a handful of gloves. However, that has only ever involved picking up like 3 stitches at a time, not like the 50 or something I think I'm going to be picking up here. So I am a little bit nervous about that, just kind of like making sure like the tension is good and everything and like the placement. Like I'm a little bit nervous, but I have to keep in mind that so far this pattern has been incredible. Knitting is a tricky craft to learn, I think, and to master, but it's also a relatively forgiving one. So I'm just going to give it a go. And if I mess it up, I'll try again. Try again. That's all we can do until we're happy with what we've got. Okay, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Oh my God, are you kidding? So I thought I was going to try doing the crochet hook like I normally have done doing gloves, but I decided to, like, watching the tutorial, again, it will be linked below. I sort of tried to do it with the knitting needle and kind of following what she was doing in the tutorial. She is a continental knitter though, and she's kind of like holding the yarn with her left hand, which I'm not. I'm an English knitter. And I was sort of trying to do that, and I kind of did it for like a 10 stitches or so, but at some point I just decided to try like holding it how I normally hold the yarn, English style. And pretty quickly I realized that picking up stitches is basically knitting, but instead of having two needles, you have one needle and then like this is your other needle. Does that make sense? And then all of a sudden it was really easy and it was done. I'm hoping I'm not speaking too soon. Obviously I haven't actually started knitting. I might start knitting and realize that I did do it wrong and it looks really ugly, but like right now I'm really happy with how that just went. I am so happy I'm doing this project and I'm doing this pattern. I feel like I'm really developing as a knitter, even though it's very, very simple. And I suppose I'll update you either when I get to the next section or if something goes wrong. Okay, well, I have neither finished another section nor made a huge mistake, and we're still having an update. But I just wanted to show you, this is the little section I've just done. And you can kind of see that line. That's where I picked up the stitches. So it's like kind of visible, but like, I'm so happy with how that looks. Can you see that? So I've just done kind of like this little bit here. Next up is starting to do some increases as it kind of comes down, I think, and you're sort of shaping where the collar is going to be. The other thing though is that that is all I have for this first ball hank of wool. And I can't quite believe that we would be 1/6 of the way done. I could believe 1/6 of the way done through the body, but don't forget we also have to make sleeves. And I bought 6 hanks of this yarn, which should be just enough. I was cutting it a little bit fine, I'm not gonna lie. I think the estimated yardage or meterage was 1188 meters and I bought 1200. So I certainly didn't give myself a lot of wiggle room. Obviously we've got the swatch that I can unravel if I need a little bit extra, but I'm starting to worry. So I suppose we're just gonna have to keep an eye on that. I'm gonna be resting for the rest of the afternoon. Don't worry, we're not gonna injure ourselves any further. I'm gonna be grumpy about it because I do just want to keep knitting, but I'm going to take a break. And next time I see you, we're going to be knitting with hank number 2 out of 6. And we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed that we have enough yarn to actually finish this thing. Can you see me from all the way over there? Ollie and I have come out for a little walk because I needed a breather. I have realized that I've made a mistake. I've made a mistake with my knitting and I'm going to have to do some frogging. And look, it's not the end of the world. We don't have to start the jumper all over again or anything like that. Don't worry. I have finished, in theory, the 2 kind of parts coming over the shoulder. So I've done both sides. After having completed the second side, however, I have realized that one is a little bit shorter than the other. And I think it was on the first half, so the part where we picked up stitches together, where basically I've done 2 extra rows, but back before I did the increases, which means I need to frog, I think, 16 rows. 16 rows! And then I need to re-knit 14 rows. I thought coming out on a lovely little walk before I actually did the frogging though would help me be nice and calm. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to head home, we're going to take some deep breaths, and we're going to get to frogging. And we're back, baby. We are back and we are ready to get stuck into re-knitting those increases. It wasn't as painful as I was making it out to be, but I'm glad we took a little bit of time just to like give myself some space. So I'm just going to carry on with my knitting, I suppose, although I have something so exciting to show you. As soon as I put this thing in frame, like the knitters among you are going to know exactly what this is. But it was mine and Blair's 15th anniversary on the weekend. 15 years! And we still like each other a lot, so that's good. And no, we're not married, although we are engaged. Sometimes I forget that. I asked Blair to marry me in 2019, and we did have plans for a very small wedding in 2020. Obviously, all of that went down the drain, and we've just never like gotten around to replanning anything, and I don't know that we will, at least anytime soon. 15 years is obviously you know, a pretty special little milestone. And so Blair wanted to get me something special. And so Blair wanted to get me like a full set of nice needles. And as much as I love my hires, like they are genuinely my favorite needle by far, sometimes with some kinds of knitting, especially magic loop, the cable does just get a little bit annoying. So Blair bought me a full set of chalgoos. He's always been a very generous person when it comes to gifts. But yeah, I have noticed that. He loves to get you like a practical thing that he gets to see you using. And so with how much knitting I've been doing lately, he'll definitely get to see me using these plenty, it's very exciting. Look at me, absolutely spoiled. Anyway, that's not really relevant to this knit because obviously I'm already using my hires. I'm just going to continue for now. For now though, I'm going to get back to re-knitting these increases. Is this the most ridiculous camera angle I have used in my like 11, 12 years of YouTube? Probably. I'm not being funny with you when I tell you that I am pissed with my knitting and with myself right now. And you want to know why? You know all that frogging I had to do and all that re-knitting I had to do? Well, it turns out that I was wrong. One side wasn't too long. The other side was too short. But as you know, I've just frogged and re-knit the side that was too long. So now I have two sides that are equal, but they're both too short. The pattern is pretty clear. I think my brain just gets a bit fuzzy when it comes to numbers. In particular, like when you knit rows 1 and 2 and then you're knitting a different 1 and 2 and then you're repeating 1 and 2 6 times. It's like, okay, so how many is that in total? I thought basically I should have 28 rows on both sides when in fact it clarifies later that it should be 30. So the first side that I have now frogged was actually correct. I got it right the first time and it was the second time that I messed up, which means that I've messed up on the third time and now I need to go back and do it a fourth and a fifth time. Did I just turn my computer on? I didn't mean to do that. Nothing too incriminating up there, I don't think, so it's fine. And so as much as I'm making a big hullabaloo right now about this whole situation, I know full well that going back and fixing it right now is a little bit annoying. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. It's like a day or two of work, you know, depending on how much I knit. Maybe a couple of days at the rate that I'm currently knitting, but that's okay. However, all that high and mighty silver lining bullshit, I'm just not there right now. So for tonight, I'm just going to let myself be pissed and I will come back to you tomorrow morning when I got a better attitude. So it turns out it took a couple of days for me to get my attitude in order, but we're back. I have done the frogging and the re-knitting on my own time. I just felt like I was a little raw. I was a little vulnerable. I just needed to get it done without a camera in my face. And also really, how many times do you need to see me frog and re-knit the same thing, you know? So it's been a couple of days and I've redone the thing that I needed to redo. And I've also done a little bit extra, just a little bit. And here it is so far. And I suppose, I mean, we don't have a collar, but we've got a hole for a head. Should we try it on? Should we try it on and see like what the fuck I've made so far? Okay, this is it. This is what we've got so far. Look. Obviously, I still will have to pick up stitches and actually do a collar, I guess. But like, it's looking like a garment of some description. A very rudimentary one. But like, it's a thing. That's how long it is on the back. Obviously, stockinette wants to curl up on itself. But how's it looking from back there? Let me know. Like, we've got a thing. We've got a thing. Anyway, that's the update. Basically, I just have a whole bunch more of just like stockinette back and forth for a little while. And then eventually we'll get to like here where we'll like join the back and the front and then I'll be knitting in the round. I do feel like that's going to be a pretty big moment for me and for this jumper. So I'll see you then. Hello, Ollie and I are back to give you an update. It has been about a week, okay? And in that week, I have not really been working on my jumper. Instead, in that time, I've made something else. I've made something completely different. I think I both mentally just kind of needed a little bit of a break. I just needed to break up this like massive lilac stockinette I've been doing for the last several weeks. And also, somebody's birthday is coming up and I wanted to make them something. So I had a little bit of a deadline and I wanted to get it done nice and early so that I wasn't stressing. So should I show you? That does mean I'm going to have to put you down, little Ollie. Is that all right? It is currently blocking. So I'm gonna have to try my best to show you this way. I made a little tiny vest for a little tiny human. I don't feel like it's my neatest or best knit that I've done recently, but like, it's still pretty cute. It was my first time knitting with yarn this chunky though, and I don't know, it's funny. I know people say that like big needles and chunky yarn is easier for beginners, but I haven't found that. So yeah, I think maybe that is why I found it like a little challenging in a new way. I felt like I was learning to knit all over again, just like holding these huge needles. Not as neat as I would have liked, but I still think it's pretty cute and I hope she's going to like it. But anyway, with that out of the way, I think it's time I show you the progress I have made on the jumper. It's probably not as much as you're expecting given how much time has passed, but we have reached a crucial milestone and I'm excited to show you. Here it is. Here's the jumper. Obviously, it probably doesn't look that different from last time, but we have done a lot more down this way, which means we have now attached in the round. And so it's kind of looking like a messy, very cropped vest right now. Should we try it on? Should I show you? Here it is. Like I said, very cropped. This would be obscene if I were to try and wear it in public, but so we've still got plenty of knitting to do, okay? But look, like, can you see? It's a thing. It's a garment. I know I said that last time, but it's even more of a garment now. Obviously, there is still so much knitting to do, and at least for quite a while, it's just going to be lots and lots and lots of stockinette in the round. And so I am learning what I've heard so many people talk about previously when I've been watching vlogs and stuff, is just like some people really enjoy the mindless knitting of just like a large stockinette project, whereas some people end up feeling bored and a bit frustrated by it. And I don't know, at this point I do feel myself falling a little bit more towards the end of bored and frustrated. I'm not at all upset that I decided to make a jumper that is so simple, especially for my first one, because it's taking the pressure off in so many ways. If this jumper ends up being a success and I want to make another large garment, I think I would probably have to opt for something with something else going on. I'm not saying that I need something super complex, like an all over cable or huge amount of color work. I've never attempted either of those things, but I think even just a little bit of like repetitive texture. So right now I wouldn't go so far as to say like I'm enjoying it, but I am glad that I'm doing it. I definitely feel like already I've learned quite a bit with the German short rows, and what was the other thing that I had to do? Oh, the picking up stitches. That was fun. That was fun to feel like that finally clicked in my head. And obviously we've got some more things coming up that I've never done. Like I've never, done a collar. I'm going to have to pick up stitches and make a collar. I've never knit sleeves, and I'm going to have to do decreases, I think, for those. Like there are more interesting things coming up, but for the rest of this body, it's just lots of knit stitches around and around and around and around. And so onwards we march. So I was having one of those days where I've just been on the couch knitting. I'm not really even dressed properly. I had no intentions of turning the camera on. However, we've reached a particular milestone that I feel like we couldn't miss. I have done quite a lot of knitting. Look at that. Oh my God. I've actually reached kind of the point where the pattern says to stop and then start working on the ribbing around the bottom of the body. Anyway, I wanted to try it on with you to kind of check out the length, see how we're going. Maybe, I don't know if I might need to add a little bit more length, especially because I'm quite busty. And then we also have a bit of a concern regarding the yarn that I have left over that we also need to talk about. But firstly, let me try it on. It's like a real thing. Oh my God. Oh, wow. I'm making a jumper. That's amazing. Obviously, there's lots of extra threads hanging everywhere that we're going to have to deal with at some point, and I am still attached to what is left of our fourth ball of yarn. So I'm feeling very good about like the fit. I feel like it's like a nice boxy kind of shape on me, but it doesn't feel like massive. I can't believe I've made this. I'm going back and forth between just being exhausted by this, being a little bit stressed out about the yarn situation, and just like absolutely thrilled and so proud of myself. But I suppose the first decision we have to make is this the correct length before I start working on the ribbing at the bottom? And I don't know, I feel like it's about there. I'm not sure. I feel like this is going to stretch out a little bit with blocking, but also just like wear and washing over time. So it feels about right. I think maybe I could do with like a row or two more, but I think this is about right. Yeah. I'm definitely not aiming for like a super cropped jumper, but I'm also not aiming for like a really oversized long one. This then moves us on to what the fuck we're going to do with the ribbing and also how much yarn I have left. So I have one ball one ball left of like this exact yarn, and then this itty bitty bit as well. And I just don't foresee this being enough for ribbing, collar, and sleeves. Don't think it's going to happen. And I kind of did foresee that. So before I started, I did order another ball in the same wool from the same place. And I know what people say about dye lots, but I feel like every new knitter needs to go through this moment. I just figured it couldn't be that bad, even if it was a little bit different. However, I don't know if you can see, just with me holding these up, how different they are. They really do look like two different colors. I'm sorry, the lighting's a little funny in here. And indeed, I first discovered this when I just had like one row to do before something. I actually used that ball. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's basically this line on my shoulder here. One row done in that yarn, which just sticks out. It's so clearly a different color. And it doesn't bother me too much being there. Like, I'm not going back to fix one little row, but it has just got me thinking about like that whole ball and how usable it's going to be in this project. So I panicked and ordered a dark purple in the same yarn. And I figured maybe I could do the collar, the ribbing, the cuffs in this dark purple. Basically, this is the yarn I have left over. And somehow I need to figure out the best way to utilize these 3 balls of yarn to finish off this jumper. And I'm just not sure what to do. I'm feeling a little bit stressed out about it. So some small progress has been made. It's small progress, but it is progress nonetheless. It's honestly been several weeks since I checked in with you last. I think the decision kind of paralysis around what I was going to do with the yarn that I had left over was really stressing me out. And so instead of making a decision, I just avoided the jumper entirely. However, last night I decided that I was just done procrastinating and I just wanted to get back to it. I also reached out to Maker Maker and they had 1 ball left of the dye lot that I've been using. So I also picked that up this week, which hasn't entirely solved the problems of how much yarn I think I'm going to need, but it has given us a bit of a buffer. So yesterday I finally decided to do the ribbing and to finish off the body, and I did do it in the dark purple, which means that the body currently is off the needles. The body is finished, my friends, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad about how these 2 colors are working together. It's definitely like a particular kind of look, but you know I like color. More purple the merrier, right? And I suppose I did also, for the very first time, do an Italian bind-off. I've never done one before, and I think especially on the first part of my Italian bind-off, you can definitely tell that this was my first attempt. But by the time I got back around to the end of the round, I feel like it's not looking too bad. I probably should have practiced on something else before I, did it on my actual jumper, but we live and we learn. This is a process of learning this jumper. I need to keep that in mind. Anyway, I now have this much of the dark purple left, and my plan is to do all of the ripping in this purple, the collar and the cuffs on the sleeves. And now I'm starting to worry that I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to have enough of this to do that. I'm a little bit paranoid. I don't know. I felt like I was back on track and now I'm stuck all over again. So will I push through this and just get to work, or will I procrastinate for another month? I don't know. You'll find out in the jump cut. So first things first, I'm wearing this cute little hat because I got all dressed up to go on like a little garden adventure so that I could show you this incredible finished jumper out in the wild, with some lovely natural lighting, all of that good stuff. However, I don't know if you can see, but once we got out there, it started pouring down. I've heard thunder a couple of times since we got home. So unfortunately, You're just going to have to use your imagination. But I mean, like, you can see. So it is now blocked, and we definitely did get like a bit of a looser fit. The arms definitely did get a bit longer. I want to say by like an inch or two, which I anticipated. I kind of stopped them where I would be just happy if they didn't increase, but still hopefully give them enough room to get just that little bit longer for that, you know, slouchy kind of look. My approach was the same with the body, kind of like stop where I would just be happy enough, but obviously like a little bit of room to move. And I just can't believe it. I cannot believe that I made this. And like, when I started this, I fully expected, I mean, like I was hoping to have a wearable jumper, a wearable garment at the end of the day. But I kept reminding myself that this was more a process of learning. This was part of my journey of learning to be a better knitter, you know? And boy, did I learn. I feel like I am such a better knitter now at the end of this. Obviously, German short rows. I can do those and they're not that scary. Picking up stitches was something I had done, but not with any confidence and not with any sense of like understanding what I was doing. Something I can do now. Italian bind off, something I can do now. The list just goes on and on and on. And I feel like my tension looks pretty good. Like this looks pretty neat. There's no gaping holes. There's no super obvious glaring problems. Like it looks like a simple but pretty damn good jumper, I think. Now, as for how long this took me, I did indeed end up procrastinating for at least 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks. I was still just freaking out so much about the yarn. It's not that this was too difficult. If anything, it was too easy. But at the end of the day, I just got so caught in my head about whether I had enough yarn, what I was going to do if I didn't have enough yarn. Should I do all the cuffs in the dark purple? Should I only do some of the cuffs in the dark purple? Like there were just too many questions and like unanswered conundrums that I had that I was so caught in my head that it just paralyzed me. So after like at least 5 weeks, I want to say, of not touching this thing, I just decided I was gonna bash it out. And if I didn't have enough yarn, then at least I would know. And I finished it within 3 days. Within 3 days. So in terms of the literal time span that, you know, from when I started to when I finished, it was about 3 months. In terms of how quickly I would have finished this if I kind of took out those periods of just freezing because of procrastination and uncertainty, I think this took me somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks of my usual knitting time. And I think that's pretty damn good. I think that's pretty damn good for my very first jumper, and a jumper that I am so happy with and I can actually see myself wearing, which is an expectation I did not allow myself to entertain when I started this. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And so during those times where I wasn't really working on this jumper, I was knitting other things. I think my favorite thing that I knit, I went back to that. Do you remember that lace scarf pattern that I just could not do? Well, I went back to it and I did it. I fucking did it. And like, I know this video is not about this, but like, look at it. Look, I am so proud of this. It's so beautiful. And so I feel like between the jumper and this scarf, I cannot tell you how much I feel like I've improved in the last 3 months as a knitter. I feel so much more confident and capable. And so even though I found parts of this tedious and frustrating, I am glad that I chose the pattern that I did, because it was so well written, so clear, so detailed. It gave you so much information along with that video tutorial that really helped me like clarify what I had read and helped me, I suppose, like learn some new skills that I wasn't confident about before. Essentially, having such a simple but detailed pattern gave me the confidence to actually try. Obviously, I have so many more skills to learn and many skills to continue developing. But yeah, I'm so proud of myself, I suppose, at the end of the day. So proud. And I hope you are too. Thank you so much for following along on this journey with me. If I can be real with you for 1 second, I was a little hesitant, even though I've filmed this whole process, to even put this video up. Because the last time I made a knitting video, I mean, I got some lovely comments for those of you who were interested, but obviously it's something a little left of field for me and my channel, which meant that the video literally tanked my channel analytics for months. Like there's a steep decline of every metric from when that video went up. And look, I'm not somebody who like worries too much about that sort of stuff, but like it didn't feel great. I'm going to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, I'm so proud of this jumper and of this video that I just wanted to put it out there. And so if you've made it all the way to the end, I would love it if you could take the time to leave me a comment to let me know that you're here and that you enjoyed this video, but also as a side benefit to also let YouTube know that the people who click on this video actually liked it. If you do take the time to do that, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate these lovely people. The folks over on my Patreon support me and what I do on this channel by tipping me just a little bit so that I can keep making these videos and get like compensated for just a tiny little bit of the work that I do. And especially big thank you goes to Olivia, Haley, and Belinda, who are very generous with their support. But I suppose that is it from me and this amazing jumper. I do think it's quite funny that I finished it at the end of winter. I'm getting quite warm. I don't think I'm going to be getting a lot of wear out of this until, I don't know, like May next year. But how fun will it be to pull it out of my wardrobe and to get to wear something that I made with my own 2 hands? Anyway, this video is long enough. I will see you very soon with something completely different. Until then, happy knitting. So much love. Bye.